So the other day, James Gurney made a post asking viewers to submit questions, and I submitted one not really thinking much of it, but he actually responded. So let's see what he said.
So to do that, I'm going to use a little splatter.
My question deals with what's your approach to opacity, and how do you know when something is cool to be left translucent or kind of opaque, and when do you think about taking things to full opacity?
Well, Chad, normally if you watch some of my videos, you know I tend to start more transparently like watercolor and then build the opaques as I go. If you watch to the end, you'll see I'm going to basically do that in this one too.
How cool is that, right? So if you watch James Gurney, you know this is kind of how he approaches his paintings, but I don't know if I've ever gone into a painting intentionally approaching it this way. So, with this advice, we're going to go out and paint and try our best to work from translucent to opaque and put the methods to the test. Let's go. The first step to any plein air sketch is to find a location. And I like this one because it's not too complicated, and for the most part, we're dealing with only a few different colors and a few different values. I get set up on this makeshift easel that I made. I have a video on it if you want to see, I'll put it in the cards. But it's perfect for my small sketchbook, and I just clip it down with binder clips, which I always forget, but I'm very lucky today I remembered them. The sketchbook is an A6 sketchbook by Moleskine, but I've also liked the Stillman and Burn. So in my opinion, those are two you can't go wrong with. If you don't like smooth paper, the Stillman and Burn might not be your favorite. Um, but if you don't mind it, that one's really cool. For all of you that have seen my videos in the past, you'll know that I don't love to use pencil, but because we're following Mr. Gurney's methods and his advice, I figured we should anyways. So it's always tricky for me because my brain prefers to work with shapes and colors rather than lines. Now, I know that sounds like an excuse, but it is. Okay, it's an excuse. But I pull through anyways. It always takes me a couple tries, but if you keep going, you'll eventually come up with something that's workable. I'm keeping my setup super light and only trying to bring out what's really important. I brought this Ultramarine Deep by Shannon Pass. I brought this Burnt Sienna by Himi, this Yellow Ochre by Da Vinci, which is actually just watercolor, this Opaque White by Lucas, and this Permanent Violet, which never gets any love from me, but we're using it today. I don't care too much about which brand I'm using. As long as it gets opaque and feels okay on the brush, I'll use it. I end up adding a bright yellow to this palette because ultramarine and yellow ochre make quite a muted and drab kind of color. Um, and because this scene is so packed with green, it ends up really helping. I'm gonna add this yellow. We're gonna have to fix some of this. I don't mind that actually. This makes it kind of muted. So, as I'm painting, I'm trying to remember all of my training. The words were playing in my head. I'm going back through the training montages like they were Rocky. The wisdom and the guidance are all starting to come back to me. But in all seriousness, I'm really just trying to be a tad more conscious about starting things loose and not jumping too quickly into being opaque, and trying to take the time to be thoughtful and to actually build the paint slowly and just not to rush. Working with this color palette was actually very interesting. I didn't come planning to use just these colors, but when I picked them, they felt pretty well rounded. Now, some artists, including myself honestly, might say that using a warm blue like ultramarine and then also a purple is kind of a redundant use of paint. But this session just reminded me of how much I absolutely love violet. It's such like a different color. It does a great job of muting greens and yellows, and it's bold by itself, right? But it also served as a great replacement to black in this case for the painting. I could have used black and really muted things out, especially the blues and any other color, but the purple really added like a certain sense of vibrancy to like really dark spots that I really enjoy. I try also to remember to move colors around the page. So if a color is only in like one spot, it can kind of make things look out of place and kind of make the whole painting like sort of uncohesive. So I try to remember if I'm using a burnt sienna like on the forklift, I'm also going to put it in the trees. I'm going to put it on the flat trailer. I'm going to put it in the grass. I'm just going to try to fit it anywhere that it even kind of goes. So this also makes it so I don't have to mix another color, which might be more accurate, but it'll just lead to like too many colors on the page. So this is another thing that using a limited palette is good for. The clouds were rolling above me, and I started to feel little spots of water on my arm and on my neck. But I was committed. I wanted to stay until I finished the painting because I don't always have the energy to go out and paint and to be in the elements and to deal with the mosquitoes and the bugs and the heat. But when I do, I try to make the most of it for sure. Eventually, though, as is with painting, the crew came and they were moving the forklift back into the trailer. One of them was asking if only girls bought Stanley Cups, and it was just really funny to listen to their conversations as they pay me essentially no mind, even though I'm like 30 feet away from them. So, as they walk back over and they move the forklift back into the trailer, I'm gonna have to work from memory from here on out. So overall, I would say that this approach takes a bit more attention than I'm used to giving to a painting, but the result was also much more rewarding. I think that the colors turn out really nice. I think it's also like really cool to appreciate how the different layers of opacity actually build up on the painting, and I think you can definitely see it in the result. So I want to say thanks to Mr. Gurney for answering the question, and also thank you guys for watching. The best way to support me is through my Ko-Fi. I have like free reference photos there, my e-novels there, and I have a lot more things. So check it out if you have time. And yeah, I appreciate you guys as always. I'll see you guys later.